The story begins on Key West Island in Florida in 1904 in a luxurious home belonging to the family of an artist and author named Robert Eugene Otto, or Jane, as they used to call him as a child, who was the only child of wealthy parents who used to entertain themselves by traveling, and during their long and frequent travels, they left their son Jane alone, under the care of an old nanny originally from the Bahamas, and it is said that this old woman was experienced in voodoo magic, based on the exploitation of evil spirits, and harnessing jinn and goblins for the purpose of inflict black curses on enemies and foes. The story goes that Robert's mother, in one of her tantrums, fired the old nanny for a trivial reason, but her son's intense attachment to his nanny forced her to wait until the end of the month. The old nanny spent her last days at home confined to her room, rarely leaving. No one knows what she was doing in that solitude. Before leaving the house, she presented a doll that she made herself as a gift to Jane and named Robert after him. Soon Jane became attached to his new doll, dressed in sailor's clothes, and became inseparable even during his sleep. He spent most of his time playing with her and started talking to her, and it seemed normal for a child of his age, but his parents and housekeepers began to hear another voice with him in the room. They thought at first that Jane was changing his voice to speak on behalf of the doll Robert, which is normal for children to do when talking to themselves, but the other voice was rougher than it was the voice of a child, sometimes louder to turn into a scream. So the parents rushed to Jane's room to find him piled in the corner of the room, while the doll Robert was sitting on the chair staring at him. They would ask Jane why he was screaming, and he would point to the doll and say angrily, "It's Robert." He started the fight first. As the days passed, strange things began to happen in the house. According to the novel, the dishes began to fly from the tables and shatter on their own. The doors were locked from the inside for no reason. The books fell off the shelves and scattered on the floor, as if a mysterious hand reached out to it and tampered with it. Jane's toys then shattered and broken, and his dolls were torn apart and scattered around the house. Jane's parents thought that their son was doing these things. They blamed him and abused him, so he pointed his finger at the doll and replied with a disapproval, "It's Robert. He did it, not me." Jane's parents did not believe that the doll was doing this, but many servants did. They believed that the old nanny had actually poured one of her black curses on the doll to take revenge on the family, and some of them swore that they saw the doll Robert running at night between the rooms, and when they tried to catch him, he began to climb the walls and walk upside down on the ceiling. Laughing and mocking them, they became terrified of him and avoided as much as possible entering Jane's game room, especially at night. The strange sightings were not limited to the housemaids, as neighbors also started talking about seeing the doll Robert walking inside the house and moving from one window to another while the family was outside. Things came to a head one night when Jane's parents rushed to his room after hearing him screaming and sobbing. They found him submerged under the furniture of the room that somehow all crumpled on top of the bed. Jane was screaming terrified, "It's Robert. He wants to hurt me." At this time, Jane's parents had enough. They tried to tear and burn the doll, but the servants warned them not to do so, lest the curse spread over the whole house. So Jane's father locked the doll in a small room in the attic of the house, locked the door on it, and prevented everyone from approaching that room. After the doll was left in the house, no strange things were made, and the topic was ignored over time. In 1972, Jane finally died, so his wife sold the house, and the new owners decided to open the door of the attic room. They did not know anything about the story of the doll Robert. They found him sitting on a rocking chair in front of the window. They marveled because he looked clean, even though everything in the room was dusty. And unfortunately for them, they had a 10-year-old daughter who quickly became attached to the doll as soon as she saw it for the first time and decided to keep it. Once again, events and strange things reared their heads around the house. The girl started screaming and sobbing at night. Her family was rushing to her and telling them that she saw the doll moving and wandering around the room and jumping over the furniture. And on one occasion, the girl swore that the doll attacked her and tried to hurt her. In the end, the doll Robert ended up in one of the American museums, Fort East Martello Museum. But the doll's quarrels did not end. So soon the workers and employees of the museum began talking about strange things that happened during the night. And it was said that some guards saw the doll roaming around the museum at night. So the museum management decided to put Robert inside a glass cage, where he is still languishing there to this day. Many tourists visit him to see his strange story and to take pictures of him cautiously. The legend claims that Robert's ear must first be politely taken before taking any picture of him, and if he refuses to do so, by tilting his head slightly back, the tourist or visitor should avoid taking the picture. so as not to be hit by an evil curse from which he cannot escape. Please support us by pressing the like button and follow us to receive everything new. Wait for the next video.